Yes, let the record reflect Member Warren joined us in progress.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Let the record reflect no action was taken. Okay. This time I'd like to call to order the council meeting Monday, September 12th, 2016. Opening prayer by Pastor Walter Zoe. Welcome, sir.
Let us bow our heads. Dear Lord, we come here this evening to make tough decisions. We come here this evening to listen. Lord, I come here and ask you, I pray for the council members. I pray for our mayor. I pray for everyone in here this evening for your guidance. Oh Lord, please touch each one, anyone that stands up and talks. Lay your hand on them. We're so blessed to have a community like North Canton, Ohio. We're blessed to have wonderful leaders. We're blessed to have such wonderful people that live here. So tonight, Lord, we welcome you as our special guest to lay your hand on us. And then when it's over with, Lord, please watch over us as we go home to our loving families, to give us guidance. So that in the morning when we wake up, when we walk out the house, get in the car, we are followed by your Spirit. We are under your guidance, O Lord. So tonight, we pray in your Son's most holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll. Here.
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 We have a motion and a second to excuse Member Griffith.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. Okay, for your consideration, may I have a motion and a second to approve as presented the council meeting minutes August 26th, 2016. Special committee of the whole meeting minutes August 22nd, 2016. And to reappoint Jordan Greenwald to the Civil Service Commission for a 6-year term.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Abstain.
Yes.
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 All right, thank you. At this time, recognition of visitors. Mr. Revolt, please.
Gerald Revolt, 1565 Ambler, Southwest, North Canton. Jeff, I want to thank you before I begin my remarks for the courtesy of returning my call on Saturday. You were on vacation, and I appreciate the time that you spent. I'm here tonight to ask council to consider tabling Ordinance 52, 2016. The proposed legislation, which deals with CRA, essentially mirrors what it replaces, and particularly it's the Section 5 of 107. If one argues that the Northridge apartment was allowable under 10709 5-10, then I think we can agree that the old language and the new language, which are almost identical, lack transparency, accountability, and oversight. I'd like to urge council to consider reviewing 5 CRA ordinances from surrounding communities. Each of these is slightly different in emphasis. For example, in Hudson, there's no residential CRA permitted. Stowe only allows residential CRA in what's called a mixed use. And in Worcester, you can only receive an abatement on remodeled property. And apartment complexes are deemed commercial, which require negotiation with the school system. I think on one of these CRA documents, you will find a solution to your dilemma here. I want to make sure that with all the comments that surround this, that council understand how important it is to have a CRA ordinance in place. Clearly, for the commercial and residential side, it is critical for redevelopment, particularly as you look along Main Street, which is where it was originally established. It's very important to have it. But again, what's important is that the process for that CRA be open and transparent. That is absolutely critical if we're to have the confidence of the taxpayers. Because clearly, at the end of the day, we're in inherent conflict when we abate taxes with our school district. And we clearly understand how critical that school district is to our own well-being as a city. So, that concludes my remarks. I would certainly encourage you again to table this. Mr. Peters, I have a copy. It's hot off the press. You're welcome to it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I think this one doesn't have any notes.
Thanks, Darrell. I appreciate
Thank you very much. Thanks, Darrell.
it. Thank you. As it relates to 5216, it's on the agenda under an emergency. We're only going to have the first reading tonight to keep things moving along. But we are going to discuss this in committee next week. So, anyone else wishing to address council, please step forward. Ms. Boffman.
Mary Ann Boffin, 320 Weber Avenue. I just heard 3 minutes ago that ordinance 49, 2016 will be tabled, but I prepared remarks, and I'm going to go ahead and say them because it will, then you will know why you will table it, hopefully. When all of you took the oath of office, you swore to uphold the charter, ordinances, and resolution and the laws of the state of Ohio. The city charter, the city ordinances, and the Ohio Revised Code are the infrastructure of North Canton city government. Tonight you have the third reading of a zoning ordinance in violation of 1181.04 of the zoning ordinance. And I forgot to give you my handout. On page 1 is the actual copy out of the zoning book, which shows 1181.04, which says, after the adoption of a resolution by council, the motion or resolution shall be reviewed and considered by the Planning Commission. The word is shall, which is a very strong legal term. It doesn't say may, maybe, or can. It says shall. So if you want to change the zoning to allow parking in someone's front yard, then it has to go to Planning Commission to be reviewed first. So on page 1, that tells what our ordinance is. If you go to page 2, it's the Ohio Revised Code, 713.10. Which talks about when you change zoning, and this 713.10 also captures 713.07 through 713.09. And the second paragraph says, the legislative authority of such municipal corporation may amend or change the number, shape, area, or regulations of or within a district, but no such amendment or change shall become effective unless the ordinance proposing is first submitted to the Planning Commission. Again, the word shall. Doesn't say may, doesn't say maybe, doesn't say can. And then I'll direct you to page 3, which is 713.07. And in this, which is also part of .10, it says other structures and premises. And if you go to page 4, it's the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, which says what a premise is. The simple definition of premise is a building and the area of land that it is on. So this ordinance refers to also the land. So I hope indeed that you do table this ordinance so that you can follow the ordinance in ORC, send it to the Planning Commission where it goes through the process. And I guess my big question is, why are you even doing this? If this is,
I can answer that, Mary.
What?
I can answer that for you if I can interject here for a minute.
no, that's okay, I'd like to continue.
Okay.
I think you're shooting a mosquito with a cannon. Why are you changing the whole city ordinance for one person? We have a zoning board of appeals. And as long as the neighbors on each side or across the street have no problem with what these people want to do, the zoning board of appeals will okay it. You're going to open yourself wide open to make it citywide. Think about it. You're going to have cars parked there that don't run. You're going to have cars parked there that are for sale. It's going to look terrible. Terrible to have parking lots in the front yard. And if it's citywide, people will take advantage of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I'm not sure exactly what you guys got in your packet, but on my agenda, it's to motion a second to table. So it must not have made it onto your packet, but I have mine right here. It says we are tabling it. That was our intent. I had it put on the agenda to table. I didn't want to leave it hanging out there. As it relates to opening up a can of worms, and you were here for those discussions in prior meetings, in here when the young lady requested that. One of the things that came up was, we have older housing stock that are on smaller pieces of property, single-car driveway, single-car garage. And that's the home that my wife and I first bought. And we were 2 drivers, and it was a pain, moving cars in and out. And, if the family has children and they have a third child, or a first child, and a third car, then you're gonna have issues. And, I don't want, what this council is trying to do is to preserve the housing stock, not have rentals up and down the main corridor where this really is a problem. So I think it's a common sense measure that we're going to put in place to effectively make some of those properties along the main corridor more attractive to younger families and not just investors looking to rent them out. But I appreciate the comments. If there's anyone else wishing to address council, please step forward.
Lone Sailor, 340 Reed Avenue, North Canton. Come to talk about CRA tonight. First, I'd like to talk about the application that was submitted to the county auditor in regards to the abatement of Northridge Place, which I believe is a illegal document, the way it's filed. And you can easily get this document either from, I got a copy from Mr. Grimes, I also got a copy from the Stark County Auditor's Office. But on the first page of that document, it says exemption sought for Northridge Place. And it has there whether you're specifying it's new construction or remodeling. Mr. Bowles X'd right beside new structure, okay? Beside remodeling, he put NA. Also on this document, you have to specify this section of the Ohio Revised Code. So on page 2, he uses section 3735.67 D1 or D2. I'd like you guys to write that down again and do some homework tonight. 3735.67 D1 or D2. If you look at those sections of the Ohio Revised Code, they refer to remodeling. Nothing about new construction. So clearly, Mr. Bowles has submitted to the county auditor's office a document that's been falsified. And I plan to contact the auditor tomorrow and make this known to him, but I thought out of courtesy to this council that I'd let you guys know tonight, so hopefully tomorrow some action's done to go to the auditor's office and have this abatement removed. The auditor's office does have the ability to go back and reinstate those back taxes that have been abated. He's got that authority. And I think you need to press the law director to do that. I also find it interesting that in the document package they got from the auditor's office, that Mr. Bowles references Ordinance 22-99 as the reason for the abatement, not 5-10. But it doesn't really matter, because if you look at Section 5 and all of the ordinance that cover CRA, there's 3 specifications. So again, look at Section 5 and do your own work. Do not take the advice of the law director in this matter. It says plainly there in Section 5, 10 years, Section 5A of the ordinances, any one you want to pick, 10 years for remodeling of dwellings of 2 units. B, Section B, 12 years for remodeling of more than 2 units. And Section C says 15 years for construction of dwellings as described in 3735.67 D3. If you look at that section of the Ohio Revised Code, it refers to historical buildings, okay? And it actually refers back to D1 and D2, saying that you can give them more exemption because they are historic buildings. So plainly, there is nothing in any of the ordinances that cover new construction. And Mr. Fox's claim at the last meeting that he went back and looked at through all of the proceedings for all of these ordinances, it doesn't matter. Okay? You have to strictly look at the ordinance and what's in there. There's nothing specifying new construction for residential property being abated. It's just not there. And I challenge Mr. Fox tonight to read specifically out of the ordinance where that is said. Because don't you think it's mighty strange that you're giving them a 12-year abatement on new construction? Why aren't you giving them 15 years? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address council, please step forward, state your name and address.
Jessica Stryan, 638 Gordon Street, right over there. I'm here to address council, just to ask maybe for their assistance in helping to name the street that goes right behind our house. We're new residents, we got the house in April, and due to just complications with delivery and just overall issues with understanding that our back door is our main door, because being directly on Portage makes it a little hard for deliveries. Anytime Amazon, which we're very avid Amazon orders, they do have to stop on Portage. That causes little complications. There's a bus stop right in front of our house. We are hoping to not cause any confusion or hopefully no accidents. So my goal is just maybe to address council to ask what would be the next step. I know that I talked about it before, but I'm more than willing to help any of the footwork to naming it, and I obviously have a suggestion for the name, but I know there are obvious steps that need to be taken, and I'm more than willing to be patient with those steps, but my goal is to help maybe take that next step, so thanks guys.
Thank you for coming up, and I'm glad you brought that up. I thought the ball was rolling. It was going to be Aiden's Way. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are a lot of fun things that you all are addressing that I think are very stressful things to think about. So naming a street in North Canton, obviously. No, I didn't want to step on any toes, but yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, let's, what we'll do is, we'll check and see where we're at as far as, what has been done or what needs to be done on that. And that would be with, the engineering department.
Yeah, I know it's with the engineering, but I know it probably has to be overseen, so. Thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mrs. Roy.
Thank you.
Councilman? Yeah. My report or now, either way.
Yeah, go ahead and say it,
Yeah, it will take a councilmatic action to change the name and rename it. It's on my list of things to do. I've got the property defined. There are probably, I think there's 6 owners that abut that property, so I didn't know if council wants to at least notify all the owners that are around there so that they would know that. And sometimes, I think most of the owners that own the property don't actually live there, so there's that too. You may have some residents that live on there, but they're not the owners. So I've been trying to compile that to send to council so that once it's there, then it's yours. But I'm trying to get that in case you want to notify those folks.
I appreciate that, Chairman. We maybe, if it's not ready next week or one of the next committee meetings, we can discuss it, go forward. Appreciate it, and whenever you do have all that information collected.
Does it have a street name right now?
No, there's 2 different alley names. 2 different alley names. You would combine it into one street name probably.
Okay, well, there you go. Talk about it next week then. Thank you. Ms. Roll?
Melanie J. Roll, 308 Portage Street. Again, the CRA. Many of us contend that Ordinance 52, 2016 is an attempt to redo what was done in error. And as Glenn has pointed out, Section 5C on how those ordinances were invalid on the form that Mr. Bowles submitted to the auditor for Northridge. On page 2 of 52, 2016, I want you to note that Section 5C, 15 years, the Ohio Revised Code numbers and the numbers that he was referencing are omitted from this. So it seems to many of us that this is a maneuver. So will you please think about what you're doing to the schools? The schools do not want new construction. So we are going forward. Please consider that. All of us are responsible for educating our young, and you have the authority to make sure that the money that voters vote for when they vote for a school levy actually goes to the schools rather than an entity that, in my opinion, doesn't need it. So let's make sure when voters vote for a school levy, that money goes to the district and not developers. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, Melanie, I want to comment on that real quick. This is not a maneuver. I mean, this is pretty straightforward. Repealing the ordinances that don't have state certifications. That's all we're doing, is cleaning it up. The other ones do have state certifications. You can see that. It's on record. But there is no maneuver here, and we're only having one reading first reading, it's not gonna be on emergency, so we're gonna slow walk this, and we're gonna discuss, further, next week.
Mel, one question. Do you think the schools don't want commercial or residential new? You don't think they want anything? Or are you just referring to residential?
Am I allowed to speak?
Yes, she's asking you a question.
Come up, so you're on record.
Come on up.
It's my understanding with conversations with the schools, they do not want any new construction in this CRA. The current boundaries, Main Street, Valley View. So it is no new construction that's particularly for residential. Unfortunately, North Canton has apartment complex zoned residential.
Thank you. And I want to make very clear, this council has gone on record to say that we are opposed to new residential. And, you know, that's not what this, that's not what the CRA was intended for. And you know, I discussed it at length with Mr. Revolt. But I want to make very clear, too, for some of the folks, and Darryl, I'll give you a minute here. I want to make very clear, some of the folks that aren't here don't understand the process. We are a legislative body, okay? We're not an administrative body. We legislated the CRA ordinance, we enacted them. You know, it was up to the way it's written, the way the state statute is written, that the housing officer implements those. The thing that, Glenn, that you had that you brought from the state auditor, we didn't see that. It's not under our purview. It's an administrative function. But I'm very interested in seeing that, and I appreciate that. Darryl, come on up. I know you wanted to make some more comments. I mean, this whole thing is that important to everybody up here, for us, for everybody to be clear. I mean, we've been accused of making maneuvers or whatever. This is pretty serious, and we care about this, so that's why I'm allowing Darryl to come back up.
Thank you. The difference between a residential CRA and a commercial industrial is that under the latter, you collect income tax. And that little phrase about negotiating with the school board, the agreement which you approve, in effect establishes a pilot, payment in lieu of taxes. So you can go out and abate, if you will, a commercial or industrial property. But what you would be doing then is collecting the income tax and returning a portion, negotiated portion of that, or all of it, to the school to make it whole. The issue with Northridge, unfortunately, is that the tax was abated, and there's no pilot. There's no payment in lieu of taxes, so they're out the cash. That's where I think this, in the materials that I presented to Jeff, I think if you take a look at it, you'll see the nuance where various other communities are attempting to protect their schools, but yet simultaneously promote economic development. I think it'll be there, and I think you'll find a path. Thank you.
Thanks, Darryl. All right, anyone else wishing to address council? Yes, sir.
Gary Stone at 373 Pershing Avenue Northeast. I know this is going to be off topic since it's not about zoning, but one of the things I've noticed when you're driving westbound towards 77 at Pittsburgh and Portage, you could barely see that light, and you end up stopping there just because you don't know whether it's red or green, and it becomes very dangerous if you don't know whether it's red or green, because what if someone thinks it's green, they just drive through and cause an accident just because they couldn't tell. A traffic light has to be distinctive. You should easily be able to tell whether it's red or green and not just guess, which is many cases now, because if I'm driving there, I'm slowing down just to see where the light is. And I figured if I can't see it, it's red, and if I could barely see it on the bottom, it's green. This is not a safe situation. And I've seen that way for a while, and it needs a different light that you can see that is a lot safer and could avoid accidents.
What intersection?
Yeah, is that the light, Pittsburgh?
By Ernie's bicycle?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an old light.
South on Pittsburgh?
It's by Ernie's.
You're seeing both lights is what you're saying?
Yeah.
You can't see either one, no.
So if you're,
Both have the exact same problem.
Because of the sunset.
Take going west. Is it
I even
night?
had trouble this morning.
Okay.
yeah,
Let's take a look.
Going west,
Going west.
Yeah.
towards the,
Gary, what direction are you traveling in when you're saying that it's not visible?
South on Pittsburgh Road, you're saying, you're coming to
Right.
Portage.
Like coming from here over to the freeway.
West on Portage.
Oh, that's west on Portage then.
Right.
Going towards the freeway on Portage.
Mhm.
So, and you have Ernie's bike to the right there. And so you're
Correct.
looking at that light, and when you're coming up on it, you're saying whether it's
It's on the
red or
right
green.
hand side just before you get to the intersection,
Yeah.
Ernie's bike shop.
Okay, so it's not that you can't see the light, it's that you can't see the color, which one's on.
Right, you can't
Yes.
tell whether it's red or green.
Right, because of the brightness of the light or the bulb that's in there. Okay.
Right,
That
and it
makes sense.
causes a dangerous situation.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
No,
the
you're right.
newer lights have a black square in the background, so it reflects better. Maybe it just needs to be replaced with something.
Yeah, new light.
We do that for east and west traffic. I'll check, make sure that's there. Also, the LED bulb, I'll make sure that we have LEDs in there that's bright.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll check it out, sir.
Thank you.
thank you,
Glad
sir.
you brought it up.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're right, we did it on West Maple. On Hillcrest, West Maple, we couldn't see the light in the trees. We put a yellow background behind it.
It made a difference.
Depends on the situation.
We need to change the color of the actual light hanging up there a little bit to help.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Gary.
Yes, ma'am.
801 Briar in North Canton, and I just have a question on this. The North Canton City Council, the Economic Development Committee, it says in the third one down, Exhibit A. I don't see an Exhibit A. Is there an Exhibit A? Whereas there has been prepared and submitted to this City Council.
I don't think A's done yet, is it? Like the map, the new map?
The new map.
I don't have the smaller version. What it is the map of the two other ordinances that you had in the 99 and 2000, 2003.
So you're voting on something that really we haven't seen the map?
It's the same map, so we're only voting on the Valley View and the North Canton CRA that are currently in place right now. That is the only CRAs that are in place, and that's, we're repealing the other two that aren't in place. So correct, we don't have a map of the two we're repealing.
I just wish that there had been a map, so everything.
I thought we were going to get one at some point. This is only the first reading, but
Yeah,
we
well,
do want to downscale map, correct?
yes, I'd like everything to be out in the open, and I.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exhibit A.
Yeah,
We
that's
agree.
the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Osborne?
Chuck Osborne, 307 Fairview Street Southeast, North Canton, Ohio. It's very interesting to see how the rules change here from week to week. You've had all kinds of interaction here, follow-up. Anyway, so much to talk about here, I don't even know where to start. But since we're talking about the CRA, it's quite interesting, Mr. Peters, and you acknowledge that the state's never certified previous CRA ordinances. So that doubly backs up what Mr. Saylor said, and I've seen those documents. Mr. Bowles just basically falsified for whatever reason. They're totally invalid. I don't know what your fancy attorneys down in Columbus are telling you. You guys are in a world of hurt. The mayor has told you, you guys are all on board with him. It was stupid. There's no valid reason to even do it. And yet you're turning around and spending taxpayer dollars when you should be telling Mr. Lemon he owes the money back and the abatement should be terminated, as well as the one on Harmon. So I doubly back up Mr. Saylor has said, what former Mayor Revolt has said, and let's get to Mrs. Baumann. You're amending the zoning code, well, again, without following the zoning code itself. To amend the zoning code is like a 6-month process. Mr. Foltz has been through it with me. Mrs. Kiesling has been through it with me. And you did it a year ago. And I'll never forget the words, Mrs. Kiesling. Oh, it should never have been there, so we're just going to take it out. You have bypassed 2 public hearings. You have bypassed input from your planning commission. And you're just running ahead. So taking away the appeal to council last year isn't worth the paper it's printed on. Because somebody could litigate that and appeal to council. Because you guys did it totally wrong. And you're doing it again now. And you're trying to stop in the middle of the process and say, well, we'll make a side trip over to the planning commission. What does that tell them? Do they have any value in this process? Hell no. Okay, we'll let them give their 2 cents worth, and then we'll just motor right along. Now, Miriam didn't come up with the word. It's a variance. Try it on an experimental basis. Help this woman get a variance, if the Zoning Board of Appeals will approve it, and see how that works out. But you're going to destroy the city if you start letting people create a parking pad right in front of their house in their front yard. In these dinky little yards as it is. I think the code or your ordinance says 40% of the front yard can be a parking pad. Be fair to the future of the city. Give her a variance and see how that's going to work out. But people know this when they buy the home. These are the restrictions. What you should be doing is doing away with R50 housing. These homes will never be adequate in the future. I told you, there's no place to park. If you've got multiple cars, you got to shuffle cars. There's no place to put your snow when you shovel. You could not fight a fire from either side of the house. Only you could fight it from front or the back. R50 is totally antiquated and should be left in the dirt. Regarding another recommendation as far as getting rid of R50, why don't you start enforcing your own zoning requirements? I called our permits and inspection today to report this neighbor about a block and a half down the street, and I'll give you this because I made 2 of them. He's got an engine block hanging off of a carrier. This car's been on blocks at least for a week. And I think it's a rental property. And I called down there, and Don, forget his last name, said, well, our part-timer is on vacation. He might be able to come over and get a picture of it. He may not. But anyway, here's a picture. Instead of giving abatements to multimillionaires who have investment property, commercial property, please think of what you're doing. You should not be led down the path by a lawbreaker, and I don't know who he's marching to, but anyway. You're not following process, procedure, and it makes you just want to go home and blow your brains out. This is pathetic up here.
Wow, that's rough.
It is. It depresses the hell out of you. I can't depend on a single soul up here.
Mr. Osborne, I wouldn't recommend that, please. Is there anyone else wishing to address council? Please step forward, state your name and address.
Larry Tripp, 1127 East Maple, North Canton. Regarding ordinance 49, 2016, third reading, before you pass this, just drive down East Maple Street. The 2 houses in Plain Township, across the street from me. A lot of you know where I live. 1127 East Maple. Drive down East Maple Street. Across the street from me, it's Plain Township. Understand, Plain Township. They've rented out this property to Walsh students. What did I tell you earlier, Mr. Grimes? I've seen as many as 8, 9 cars in their driveway when I wake up in the morning. This would be about in the I'm 1127, probably in the 1105 or 1122 category on East Maple. A guy by the name of John Monarch owned the house, and he passed away a couple years ago. It's right in the same block where your sister or sister-in-law, whatever it is.
Jeff Rabbit
Yeah,
bought it from
yeah.
the Mundorf.
It's terrible. Then, across the street to the east of me, 2 doors down, they also rent to Welsh college students. I've seen as many as 6, 7 cars. They drive across their yard to get out of the driveway. So before you even think of passing this, think of the consequences. But Mr. Osborne, what it's going to do to the city down the road. You're opening up a real can of worms. I've had one on my side of the street from some Oriental people. I've got pictures in my cell phone. Unfortunately, my printer doesn't work, or I would have had copies. Again, they just put in concrete that abuts almost up to their neighbor's lot, so they could park additional cars. And now they were parking the cars that would come out on the sidewalk, the back ends. So think before you even go any further with this. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else wishing to address council? Please step forward, state your name and address. On to old business. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only the third reading of ordinance number 47-16.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Chairman
Yes.
Keefe.
This is the third and final reading of the abatement over by the Hoover District. Any questions, concerns? I motion we adopt.
Is this the? Wait, this is the road, right? This is the one.
Vacation.
Vacation, did I say abatement? I meant vacation.
Yeah, vacation.
Got abatement in my head.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I have a question.
I was with you.
Vacation.
Orchard Northeast and Woodward.
So this is the third reading on the vacation of the lot, and I've been bugging everybody to see if we could get an update on the Hoover. I know this is an important thing for the church, Hoover, for the apartments, right? So they can have the parking. I would just like to see the corner, and I'd like to get an update, so I don't know if we have that yet, but I think that would be
I
well.
can-
We'll have that in reports.
Okay.
All right, motion we adopt.
Is there a second?
Second. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, thank you very much. May I have a motion and a second to table ordinance number 49-16?
So moved. Second.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Now, on new business, may I have a motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 52-16?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Abstain.
Yes.
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 It's 106, I believe there's a typographical error in
From last week?
your last one.
Okay,
Yes.
because that's what I wrote in my notes, and that's what I read.
It's 106.
Okay, so it is 106, all right.
Correct.
So I'll explain it the way I know, and if Tim wants to give any, if I'm wrong or incorrect. In ordinance 10709 in 2009, we repealed that one immediately with ordinance 5/2010. However, those two, which is really one ordinance, never went down to the state, and we never received a certificate certifying that CRA area. So we are currently going to repeal that CRA area that really doesn't truly exist, but we're going to get it off our books. It does not exist on the auditor's web or the state community development website. We've never received a certificate, which we've confirmed through Jim. Therefore, they really truly don't exist. We need to get them off our books. With this ordinance, that's what we are doing.
Correct. I have confirmed with the Department of Development with what certifications that we have, and they're related to those prior ordinances, the 510 and the 10709. The only difference between those two is the 510, instead of having a meets and bounds property description, you have a map. And everything else involving that are exactly the same. I have no evidence that the Department of Development received that or denied anything. All I know is there's not a certificate, except for those earlier ones for the 22, 2000, and 06, 2000, and the 7104, essentially the Main Street CRA and the Valley View. Those ones, we have certificates. You have to have the authority of the state in those certificates to issue those tax abatements. And so if you leave the ordinances that you have, as far as 5-2010, there's the presumption for someone to believe that expanded area is available for a CRA, which indeed it's not. It would be no different than if it was sent and for some reason there was a mistake. And maybe there was, but the only evidence I have is just the lack of a certificate. And so if you had sent it and there was some error and the state didn't approve it, you wouldn't be invalidating any of your prior certified community reinvestment areas. So what, in effect, this is trying to do is just make it clear and transparent for anyone that needs to understand where we do have community investment areas and what's available there, that they line up with the ordinances that we have in place. And that's what this will do. As Councilman Griffith has stated, once you revive those, repeal the other ones, then you have the opportunity, if you wish, to then amend those. You can be very specific. You can state then in those, in your amendments, whether or not you will permit new construction for residential, commercial, or industrial property. You may even be very clear, and I think that is the problem that we've had with the Northridge CRA, is defining exactly what is residential and what is commercial property. So you may state in there that if you're going to permit new construction for residential property, you can state, and for the purposes of the CRA, that no more than, say, 4 units in a property will be considered residential. Anything above must be considered commercial. And so that others are aware, the issue of whether or not the housing officer has the authority to grant the tax abatement. Once it's determined, housing officer is able to make that determination based on what we have in our housing codes, whether or not a property is residential or commercial. If it's deemed residential by state statute, it's put in place for the reason to remove the politics from there, only the housing officer is the one that has the authority to approve or deny. It can't go to council. The Supreme Court, in interpreting those rules and what the state legislature has put in there, is for the purposes of removing any politics, not having council members decide whether or not a tax abatement for residential property should or should not be approved. The state legislature has determined that that is the sole decision of your housing officer. So what you're attempting to do here with these ordinances, as I said, is just make it clear that you don't have certifications for those broadened areas that happened in 09 and 10. And this brings it back to make it clear that those that are in effect are those prior ordinances.
Another question, would it be appropriate to, in committee next week, amend this talk about amending this legislation on its second and third readings to make the changes that we'd like to see? Or would it be better to finish this out and then go back and amend?
That's a terrific question. The reason why you need to revive these is because if you wish to amend the meat of those in determining whether or not residential property is included for new construction or to change thresholds or time periods for those that may receive abatements, then you would be required to send that amendment then to the state and ask the state, okay, for those that we do have certifications, we would like to amend what we have in place for some of those variables. You make that application if the state approves it, and it has done that. It's exactly what happened in the earlier ones for the Main Street CRA. There was absolutely, in the 06 and the 22, there was an amendment, and we have a certificate for the amended CRA. So we shouldn't amend the legislation because, in fact, what we're asking to do is to revive it. And I think you're making it kind of messy and even more confusing than it may be in saying we're reviving it, and while we're doing that, we're amending it, and then we're also sending it to the state for certification. So I think that the steps are, regardless, whether or not you change and revive and repeal these ordinances, we know it's clear that we only have authority to grant the abatements for which we have the certification, and those are for the 99 and 2000, and the 04 for the Valley View.
Okay. Any questions? We're not passing this on emergency, obviously. We will bring it back up to amend. But it appears as if we do need to repeal the two CRAs that really truly don't exist.
Yeah, it's not, think of it not necessarily repealing the CRAs because we have those in place with the state. We have certifications that permit us to award those abatements. But what you do have is an attempt to amend those and expand those in an ordinance that ordinance has not received the certification from the state. So it's as though they're on our records, but they're ineffective because we have no authority to give the abatement unless we have the certificates.
Can we have the maps by next week then?
Sure.
Of the ones that will occur?
Sure, and the maps are the ones for those prior ones. What I had asked to do to make it a little cleaner here is if the engineer could put on one map the Main Street CRA in one color and then the Valley View in the other, they'd each be on the same map. He's done that, it's just when an engineer makes a map, it's about the size of the table. We want it in something 8.5 by 11. We should have that next week.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, motion we pass the first reading.
Second?
Yes.
Abstain?
Yes.
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 All right, thank you. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 53-16?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 Chairwoman Wyrick.
So we've talked about this before, and it really is just kind of the natural process that we do. And it just gives Director Grimes the opportunity to go out and get new bids for contracts for the November 30, 2016. And I know you wanted on emergency.
Yes, if I could pass on emergency because I am getting to a due date.
Yes,
If I don't get it passed.
Is the contract 1 year at a time?
Contract for the independent energy consultants is 1 year. You can get out of it. It's been a perpetual one. There's certain times that you can get out of that one. The one I was concerned with was the 2012 because it mentioned 4 years. It wasn't real clear to me, so I wanted to make sure I could come back and get the 4 years in there. The company that actually supplies the gas in this particular is whatever we sign with. Obviously, we can't go more than 4 years. I don't know that we would go 4 years. Probably would go with 1 or 2 years, and I'm looking probably at a 2-year contract for that.
Second. Yes.
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 Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council for 3 readings for ordinance number 53-16?
So moved. Second?
Yes.
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 Thank you. Now may I have a motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules ordinance number 53-16?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 54-16?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 To increase the biweekly compensation for the position of director, permit, and development
Yes.
on board and ready to roll, and we just need to get this, and that's why this is an emergency. Going to offer him the job tomorrow, correct?
Yes, sir, if you pass it.
Yeah, very good. So looking forward to this. So if there's no further questions, I'll entertain a motion and a second to adopt the first reading.
So moved. Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council for 3 readings for ordinance number 5416?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Finally, may I have a motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules ordinance number 54-16?
So moved. Second.
Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 55-16?
So moved.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. We discussed this in committee last time. Well, again, thank the law director for all his hard work and diligence on this. He not only, I think, was able to strike a fair deal for all involved, but saved us a ton of money in the process.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your hard work on that.
Thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion and a second to adopt the first reading of ordinance 55-16.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council for 3 readings for ordinance number 55-16?
So moved.
Second.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
May I have a motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules ordinance number 55-16?
So moved. Second. Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 56-16?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Fontes, your time to shine.
Okay, so we're gonna shine for a perpetual storm sewer easement there at the backside of the sanctuary. And, it's on an emergency, so I move that we adopt the first reading.
Second. Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council for 3 readings for ordinance number 56-16.
So moved. Second?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Finally, we have a motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules ordinance number 56-16.
So moved.
Second?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 57-16.
So moved. Second? Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Chairman Fontaine.
Okay, so this is just a, an ongoing water main perpetual easement for the parcel there where the Kings Creek villas are. And I move that we adopt the first reading.
Second? Yes.
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 Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council for 3 readings for ordinance number 57-16.
So moved. Second?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
And may I have a motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules ordinance number 57-16.
So moved.
Second. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 58-16.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Chairman Fontaine.
This here is, again, this is an easement, water main easement, ongoing perpetual agreement for the Kings Creek Association villas back there, so I move that we adopt that first reading.
Second. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council for 3 readings for ordinance number 58-16.
So moved. Second.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
We have have a motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules ordinance number 58-16?
So moved.
Second. Yes.
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 Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 59-16?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Chairman Fonto.
Okay, so this is a good one. This is where they're talking about Ream to Maine, right there, next to the bank. Making an expansion there was the grant that we're trying to get, or we are gonna get, hopefully. But the deadline's September 16th, and it's like $650,000, so it's on an emergency. So I move that we adopt this as soon as possible, like right now.
Right, well, let's do it.
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council for 3 readings for ordinance number 59-16?
So moved right now.
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Finally, may I have a motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules ordinance number 59-16?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 60-16?
So moved.
Second.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Chairman Surratt.
Dan's not here, I'll take over, but has anyone been able to go over and tour the EMS unit? This is for the EMS unit.
It was supposed to be tonight.
Right, okay. And I've got been able to been over there, and Chief Bacon has taken me through. I want to add some living quarters. It's needed living quarters. We can go over there and take a look at
That's
it.
the next one.
That's the next one.
Yeah, we're on 60.
And we're not, I guess I was doing it right now.
Yeah. This is the drinking water.
Okay, on our drinking water.
Clarifiers.
All right, well, this is also then, this is to put out bids for Administrator Grimes for the clarifiers and motor replacement project. Mike, do we need this?
Yeah, the motors that are in there now are 45 years old. We hope to get that for the next one.
It's an emergency because of the bid process?
We would like to get that bid process out, yes, sir.
So I move that, we make a motion that we go ahead and approve this in the first reading.
Second.
Yes.
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 Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council for 3 readings for ordinance number 60-16?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules ordinance number 60-16?
So moved.
Second?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 61-16?
So moved.
Second?
Yes?
Yes.
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 Thank you. And you were saying?
I was saying right now that this is for the EMS building over there on 7th Street. They're in need of some really living space now. They're sharing, female and male, sharing spaces over there, sleeping quarters. And so I've been over there and I've seen it, and Dutch has taken me through it, and I really do feel that there is a need. And if any of you wish to go over there, you may get a appointment with Dutch and he'll bring you in. But I think this is important for our people that are over there and that are spending a lot of time over there and, you know, on call at all times, that we give them at least some kind of living quarters where it's somewhat comfortable. And I invite anybody just to go look at that based on what I saw here. It really needs some improvement to it. So I move that we go ahead and approve this, at least in the first reading.
Second.
Any discussion, first of all?
No, I saw.
Okay, so okay.
Long overdue.
Yeah.
Long overdue. Thanks, Dutch, for
What was the amount for
bringing
it?
it up.
190,000.
Sorry, we have a motion and a second.
Yes.
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 Yes? Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council for 3 readings for ordinance number 61-16?
So moved.
Second? Yes.
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 Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules ordinance number 61-16?
So moved. Second?
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 62-16?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Since Dan isn't here, can you turn this over to Mike? Do you have a little more information on this?
Yeah, it's just, we're asking to be able to bid these things out through a national purchasing cooperation, and we already have Ohio, but we'd also like to do the national one. We've looked at that, and a couple things we've seen right away is when we resurface the tennis courts and that type of thing, we think we can get cheaper prices that way. So Mr. Davis asked that we add that as one more option when we're bidding out our projects.
Is that, would that be the first thing you look at then, or?
We'll look at Ohio and then we'll look at national. That'd be the first 2 things that we look at.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, we would look
This
at
is separate from,
separate from the Ohio one, yes, that we'd have an extra one to look at, so.
So someone from out of state would come over and do the job?
No, your local vendors also bid on the national contracts too, so.
all right, very good. Any other questions? We're gonna have 3 readings on this, so. entertain a motion and a second to adopt the first reading.
So moved.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of resolution number 4-16?
So moved.
Second.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Chairwoman Ware.
Last time Tim did a really nice job explaining kind of where we are with this. It really just gives us some extra time to understand what the law regarding medical marijuana does. So it looks at all statutes and gives us 6 months, which is kind of on hold right now. But I think we want to do it under emergency so that if anybody does try to make permits or leasing space, we're ready.
Could we just, like, make this go on to infinity if we want?
Well, when the 6-month moratorium is up, if we wish to extend it, if it appears that there isn't sufficient information at that time, certainly you may extend it. Right now, I see every day municipalities throughout the state are either doing a moratorium or they're outright being. Some are remaining quiet, and those may be that their plan is to not do any additional type of local ordinances, but nevertheless, nearly every day newspapers are reporting how municipalities are acting. I think the vast majority are going the route of the moratorium unless they have already decided that they intend to ban.
So right now, with what we know, I move to adopt.
Okay.
Second.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. May I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council for 3 readings for resolution number 4-16?
So moved. Second. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules resolution number 4-16?
So moved. Second. Yes.
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 Thank you. Reports, Fonte.
Okay, so we just passed the Whitworth Orchard Street for Hoover and the church, mainly Hoover, for the apartments. And I just gotta say, I'm beating this to death, and I just wanna go on record one more time. Stu Lickner's an awesome guy, he can do a lot of good things, and gets things done like this. I'd like to see before winter, why can't we get the Hoover project done on the outside? I mean, September's the perfect time to grade it, put a base layer, blacktop down, take that ugly fence down. Just it would clean it up and make it look so much nicer while we're working on getting funding or whatever it is they're trying to do to get the inside. So I think it would be good to ask them to give us a report and see if they would at least do that before winter. And it would clean up the outside and then give us an update on the progress. And is there anything we can do as a council to help speed this process along? Because I know we're a couple years overdue. That's just my opinion.
I did make contact with her through texting, and she said either the 19th or the 26th. I asked her if she could be here tonight. She never responded, but she never responded. I told her the 19th would be better, but I've never heard a response back.
Couldn't
So-
get Stu to come in or somebody?
Dave, you have a report too. Dave has a report.
Dave has a report?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I jumped the gun.
Good. We'll wait till
I
it's
just,
all the way around.
I to see it get handled soon, or what can we do? I mean, what's happening?
Yeah, I actually called them after I spoke with you and got a hold of Chris Samaritan. So, Councilman Soretta is working with Carol Smith to set up a meeting, because Carol is usually the person that manages the projects and handles all the inquiries. And then we have the two partners, Stu Lichter and also Chris Samaritan. Chris Samaritan, he lives here in Ohio, whereas Stu Lichter lives in California. So called both of them, and Stu Lichter said that he was going to look into it, and then talked to Chris Samaritan right after I spoke to you, which was between 6 and 6:30, and Chris said that they're working on getting the financing complete for the IRG project. And I said, well, the front's looking pretty messy, maybe we should pave it or put grass in it to straighten it out until this financing gets complete. And they said that they plan on having apartments available in the spring. And I said, well, we've heard that before. And he said, these development deals, they just take time. And
I'm looking at Hall of Fame, and I drove by there last week and this week, and everything's demoed. Like
Right.
that, boom.
Right.
Just like that.
Right.
So I'm thinking this would be like a one-day project for them to do the outside.
Right.
How fast that's going.
Yeah, I mean, I drive by there all the time, and I am amazed at what can happen when you put your mind to it.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I know that there's finances and all that, but can we just do the landscaping
Yeah.
and just get the outside cleaned
No,
up?
and I made it real clear to him too. I said, because really what's going to happen is it's not going to look so good, for you fellas. You've done a very good job as far as, redeveloping that property, but when you look at the outside portion, right in the corner, it just doesn't look good. I mean, it's just not something that we want sitting
I'm
like that.
telling you, a guy at that
Right.
power level could knock this out on a
Right.
Saturday and a Sunday.
Right. So we're going to be meeting with them.
They work on Saturdays and Sundays.
Mark's got a meeting set up with them, so we made contact with them.
Yeah, whatever we can do to help, let's hear that.
I think it's clear we're all very frustrated in the market down. I don't think there's anybody that questions that at all, so we just need to keep pushing.
Just
At every avenue we have.
Tell us what's going on. Communicate with us. Nothing's communicated. That's what bugs me.
So I'll try to confirm with her, and then we'll see where we,
Mm-hmm.
in a very polite way, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, very polite.
Where?
No report.
Keith?
No report.
Mr. Soretta?
Well, first of all, I think we should wish, last 2 weekends ago, I believe, Jessica got married. So Jess, are you still married, Jess? And that went well, I take it. It was a destination wedding. I wasn't invited, but I don't know.
We had a great time, Mark. No, just teasing,
All right.
just teasing.
Congrats, Jess. It might change your schedule a little bit.
Go home early.
Some of you may have saw that there are people working on the guard shack out there.
Nice.
I've talked to Steve Kuhn over the last couple weeks, and he told his guys he wanted it done by Friday, this Friday. And usually when he tells them that it happens. But you can see there's a local painter out there. A guy volunteered to work with Steve and do that, but they've got some things they've got to do. Dave McDaniels is the president of the Heritage Society, and they're basically now taking control of that, and then they're going to put panels in the window before and after of North Canton, show the heritage, and the Heritage Society will kind of showcase some of the heritage of North Canton with it. So they'll be taking the air conditioner out so nobody whacks their head on it and kid, and they'll be just kind of straightening up some of the stuff that was spent during the move. But for the most part, the inside is going to look just like it. The Heritage Society does not want to touch the inside. They want people to look in and see 19 whatever, So that'll be going. You'll see that going. As far as the pool is concerned, we've got people, if you've been out there, they're digging away out there. Our guys have jumped right on that after it was closed. We're putting some drains in around the side, some extra concrete. First of all, the drains and everything are minimal cost, but the contractor is paying for the majority of all this. They're going to be reseeding it with a split seeder with some of the top seed, which is like sports seed, because some of those areas, we do not want to sit here and talking about grass next spring. So they're really on that, and we're putting in some extra concrete they didn't take into consideration when people waited in line, they went back into the grass, and that dripped water, and that created a lot of wearing out of the grass. So you're just extending the lines areas right there. So Jim Davis and his crew is on that, and I was out there today, and they're really going at it, so that's good. And hopefully the contract will be seen this week. Let's see here. And I think that's all I had for reports. Have a good one.
Thank you. Member Foltz.
No report.
All right, just a quick note here. I think I left my phone at home, and I asked some of my friends to text me to see how the live streaming was going.
Oh, it's going very well. I got it up.
Oh, you got it up?
Yeah, yeah, it's up.
All right.
It's good.
And the audio is good and
I
everything?
haven't heard, I mean, we're talking. It's about a 15-second delay, but it's.
Depends on the speaker, how loud they speak and not right now, so we're still playing with it. We've got a couple mixers.
What were you saying about how many people?
Hello, world.
3, including me.
So it shows you how many people are on there. Very good. Well, I anticipate more and more in the
I
future.
want to say no, if you can put it in the newsletter,
Yes.
streaming, I think that's a great spot to announce it. I mean, just let so many people know.
And I think and the reason I mentioned that, I just wanted to make note because I cringed a couple times today. And I know we've been doing this a lot, you know, and we're very careful with our words. We're very measured, I think. You know, sometimes we, you know, as politicians, you talk too much, but there were 2 references tonight that made me cringe, and I would just ask those 2 gentlemen, you know who you are, just to choose your words a little more carefully, because there are people that may be watching that might be a little more sensitive to that than maybe you as well. So
I'm sure that some of the schools are going to use it to show their government classes and so on.
yes. So that's it. Director Vlau.
Yes, sir. I just want to be clear, there were some allegations about what some think in judging what they believe may be the law director's opinion on some things. And I don't know if they know exactly what those opinions may be, because I've not given it to them, because indeed they're not public officials. But what I do want to be clear about is that the city is looking quite closely at those very issues. And for maybe the past 3 months, it feels as though I've worked on little else but that. But at this very moment, it doesn't appear appropriate to give full disclosure of everything that I've evaluated and what I'm looking at now. I can only assure you that the legislation that they're trying to put forward is, as I said, simply to make it transparent the areas that we have state certification to offer the tax abatements. We have looked at the application, absolutely. And your Matlock search there disclosed the same thing that it disclosed to us. There are issues with that application, and we're looking at those quite closely. I think where perhaps someone may have misled you a little bit is that we don't have, as a municipal body, the authority to take away a tax abatement simply like that. There's a process, and we'll be obligated to follow that process. And we're looking at it quite closely because, indeed, so much is at stake. So we wish to do it correctly. And that dovetails into one other issue in that we have been waiting for an opinion from Judge Haas regarding the parking lot expansion at the Hoover South lot. And we've been actually waiting for a bit of time on that, but the time was, I guess, well spent. We were simply trying to show that we believe our planning commission followed the rules correctly, and that council's determination in affirming the planning commission's decision to award the conditional use permit to expand the parking lot was correct, and indeed, the Common Pleas Court agreed with council and affirmed its decision. So we're happy about that. It appears that the parking lot expansion will remain because the process was followed, and we had the affirmation from an independent third party. So that's good on our planning commission, it's good on council, it shows we followed the rules and implemented those correctly. So that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Director of Administration.
First off, the engineer, just for the record, he's off tonight because I sent him home. He's quite ill, even though he was here probably until about 6 o'clock tonight, making sure his grant was ready to go in case he doesn't make it in. But we did want him around because he'll infect the rest of us, so that's why he's not here tonight. And the chief is out here, and instead of setting up a particular time, the chief said that, anytime during the day or early evening hours, if you want to visit the EMS, just go there. You don't need to call him. He's fine with you just showing up, and any of the captains can take you through and show you anything that you want to see there. So, we're pretty much above board on what we need there. So, and I know many of you have been through that anyhow quite a bit. So, and then the last thing is I just appreciate you passing what we really need to be passed on emergency. I appreciate you doing that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, just to comment on a few items. The first one is the CRA. Just to give a brief summary on where we're at with the CRA. The CRA, clearly, there's no council member here. There is myself, previous mayors, because I've talked to Daryl Revolt at length over this, I've talked to previous council members about this. The CRA, clearly, there was no one that intended for the Northridge Apartments to have an $860,000 plus abatement for 13 years. And as Mr. Saylor mentioned, it should be 15 years if we were being consistent with the ordinance, and we did discover that. Actually, Tim Fox, our law director, discovered that when he was doing his comprehensive review of the CRA, of that particular one. And on top of that, just to make sure that we're covering all the bases, we did get Bricker and Eckler, which are a very reputable firm, to also do an overall assessment of the work that Tim Fox is doing. So I'm confident that we're going to handle this correctly. But it's similar to, and then as Mr. Peters had mentioned, council does pass the legislation. They pass it and then we administer it. And when you look at the administration of this, clearly myself and Mike Grimes and the new permit superintendent, there are things that we would not do the next time around. My daughter Aubrey, who was in 8th grade, she said, "Dad, could I have a few friends over?" And I said, "Yeah, I think you can." And I pull in the driveway and there was about 35 8th graders in the cul-de-sac. And I'm thinking, well, what's going on? Is there a parade here? Of course, not even thinking that it could be my child that is the cause of all of this. And I asked my daughter, "What's going on?" "We said I could have a few friends over." And I'm thinking, well, few, I'm thinking 3 or 4. But one person texts another, and before you know it, you got a whole group of kids there. Well, it's 9 o'clock at night. It's not like I can send them all home because many of them were driven in by their parents. So it's a similar thing with this CRA. It's pretty clear that it wasn't intended by this council or Mike Grimes or myself or the law director. And so now as we go through and we try to correct it, we've got to make sure that we're doing it properly because you have to keep in mind that you do have the recipient of the CRA, and there are documents that have been signed and approved for the next 13 years, which should have been 15 if we were being consistent with that. And so now we've got to make sure and correct it. But we could have went through, and I did think about this. We'll hold a housing council and we'll overturn it. Well, and Melanie, I spoke with you about that, Miriam. Number one, that would be a decision of the housing council, but let's say that they did that, it doesn't necessarily mean that it would hold up in court. So we are strategically going about this, following the process, and we're going to make sure that this gets resolved. And the next thing is, when you look at the traffic light, Gary, thank you for bringing that up, because oftentimes there's things that people can drive by, every day. I don't go that route very often, so it's something I wouldn't have noticed. So I'm glad you took the time to bring that up, and we'll make sure and get that corrected. The zoning on the no parking. Mr. Tripp, you brought that up too. You know, keep in mind that in North Canton, we're one of the few political subdivisions, when you look at townships, municipalities, villages, that has no parking at night. Any night during the week, there's no parking, which is a good thing because it's easier for our police officers to patrol, but at the same time, it puts an extra burden on residents that have to put multiple cars in a driveway. So I appreciate council looking at this. Our intention is not to degrade the city, it's to improve it, being sensitive to all the residents and at the same time enhancing. And then Gary Fry, he's going to be starting tomorrow. He'll be the superintendent of permits and also the director of development. So he'll be in charge of economic development, he'll be in charge of permits, inspections, nuisances. Very impressive guy. Whenever we hire somebody in the city, we look at their character first, and then secondly, we look at their talent, their ability. And he's got a very strong character, a very good reputation, and he's also very talented too, because he was a community planner for 2 municipalities in Utah. But he's lived in North Canton now, I believe, well over 10 years, and he has 5 kids. He's a good man, and so we're looking forward to him starting tomorrow. And then lastly, you know, with Tim Fox. Tim, myself, I think that he does an excellent job as an attorney for the city. And I think that, you know, Tim's approach is a pretty technical, he's a very legalistic attorney in that he doesn't shoot from the hip at all. Anytime that I've asked him for anything, or Mike Grimes has asked him for anything, you know, he does, you know, kill mosquitoes with sledgehammers, I think, sometimes, because he'll give you every Supreme Court decision that was ever written on a particular subject. And I know you're laughing, you know, because it's true. He does do the you know, what I would consider to be the overkill. But when you're covering yourself legally, that's what you need. You know, and it is a little bit different administratively, as Mike Grimes says, that sometimes you have to shoot for 80% because you just don't have, you have so many decisions to make, you can't make everything perfectly. But I know Tim really does strive to make all of the legal opinions perfect. There's no doubt about that. And as I look at this, you know, when I first started as mayor, I had a rough first 2 years, as most of you know, because I was pretty intense, and I think I was insensitive at times, but it wasn't because I was trying to be mean. It's just, you know, I'm trying to prove myself. Some areas I didn't feel as confident as I would have liked, and so you try to overcompensate, at least I did, you know, for being a little bit more intense. And I think with Tim, he was, when he got started here, he was, you know, intense. I mean, he's an intense guy. I was thinking, wow, that was rough. And I think maybe he was, you know, insensitive to people in our audience. And I've talked to him about that. But I think he's made a change. And so what I'd ask Larry and Glenn and Melanie and Chuck, I mean, Chuck and I, we've had the opportunity to groom our relationship over 15 years. And it has been not an easy thing, but we are very civil with each other. Oftentimes we don't always agree, but like on the North Ridge, we definitely agree on that. So the thing is this is just my own observation, my own opinion. I think that Tim Fox does an excellent job as an attorney, and I think that he's very, very intense, and I think that his approach in the council chambers when he first got started, just like when I first got started, very, very intense, and sometimes maybe insensitive to the people in the audience. But I think he's made a big change, and he's working on it. And just as I'm working on it, and everybody else here is working on it. So what I would ask is, you know, I think Melanie, you know, it's like give everybody a chance. And I think that Tim's improving. And I think also, you know, it's up to you. You can all, you know, take whatever approach you want. You can laugh about it. I don't think it's funny, though. I mean, I think it's really about, you know, having a respect for people. And some of the comments that were made tonight were really, really upsetting to me. And I found personally offensive, Chuck, the comments you made. I found them really personally offensive. Now, see, my intense side's coming out right now because when I get personally offended, it starts to come out, which is probably not a good thing. So I'm gonna back off because I've got more experience since I've been here now a few years. Just like Tim is starting to back off, but I think the same thing should be extended to the people here. And so now that I'm gonna leave my intense side back, Chief, if you don't mind coming up here and giving us a quick update on the,
Hey, Dave.
on a positive thing.
Can I just say one more quick thing?
Yeah.
Like just from the little bit I've been with everybody here, I know we get kicked a bit for not being, diversified enough, but I can say right now, just, I know the heart of the guys I work with up here, including Attorney Fox. And, even though the perception sometimes not right, the heart is always in the right spot.
Yes.
And I know that everybody here wants to do it right, so if we make a mistake that's brought to our attention, we don't want it to be wrong, we want it to be right. And we're not all experts in all fields, we're laymen, we have jobs, families, so we want to become good at what we do. So that's why we go to the law director, we go to someone with more experience. And like I said, even, Chuck, he's very knowledgeable about things, and if Chuck brings something to me that, hey, you need to do this, then I'll look at it, and if it's something that's correct, then let's do it. We don't want to do things wrong, we want to do it right. We're here for the people, we're not here for ourselves. It doesn't pay near enough for the headaches sometimes we go through. That's just my 2 cents I want to chime in. Okay, sorry.
No, I agree. It's always, we always like to judge everybody by their actions, but then we want people to judge us by our intentions. It's like, well, my intentions were good, So it's like sometimes we got to step back and look at that. But that's just my own opinion. And Chief, if you don't mind just sharing, we've got an open house. 2 of them coming up, right? On the... What's that? Yes, I'm looking at it right here. I did get invited. We're going to be covering Monday, October 10th, right? 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and October 12th on Wednesday, 6 to 8 p.m.
That's correct. For fire prevention.
And also a reminder, replace smoke alarms every 10 years. And we'll have refreshments there too, right?
Yeah, except for Mr. Grimes, not on the very popcorn.
Yeah.
No popcorn for Grimes.
I had one comment.
Yeah.
I know Halloween's coming up, but we get some oil and squeaky doors.
Yes.
We probably should discuss when Halloween's going to be again, before it gets too far away from us.
We've received calls already.
Yeah, we're gonna, normally again what we do is,
I thought it was already referred to as Sunday.
Hours, what time of day, what time?
yeah, we'll check the
Actually, we went a little later in the evening. I don't know.
Halloween's Monday this year,
Right.
31st, but my kids are really like to have off week. Whatever you can do for us, Mayor.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll check to see when the, I love this Halloween issue. No, but here's the thing, just so, going through the process here, normally, like I had mentioned years previously, whatever the county does, that's normally what we follow. If you folks are not happy with what the county is doing, but let's just confirm that. And then, if that's amenable to us, then we'll do what the county does, and if not, then the council, we can take a recommendation.
The county announced, do we know?
I thought the county said 3 to 5.
On Sunday?
On Sunday, 3 to 5?
Are you folks okay with 3 to 5?
My sugar bus is going to go late. I don't know if it's
Or 7 to 9.
I thought we pushed it so at least you had a little dark night.
Scary and
It's like
dangerous.
school, then it's easy.
I know you don't want to do that. They have
5 to 7.
I don't care what you do.
Last year, it was Saturday night.
Did you do Saturday night?
Is it 4 to 6 or 5 to 7?
It was Halloween. It was actually Halloween.
Yeah, I did, speaking of Halloween, I did get a lot of positive comments from parents when it was held on a Saturday rather than a Sunday.
Saturday night is a great time to do
Let's
it.
do it
Yeah.
Saturday night.
It's a party.
6 to 8.
Yeah,
It's
because,
still-
Sunday is rough when you have little children,
Yeah.
and then they're running around, they're eating a lot of candy, and then you gotta get them in bed, for school. So, does anybody have?
Usually right in the middle of Brownsville. Well, we might need a sugar.
Yeah, right.
I would say 6 to 8.
So really, if what we could do is look at doing it a Saturday.
5 to 7.
5 to 7 Saturday.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can do that.
5 to 7 on
5 to 7 on Saturday before.
The 29th?
Yeah, that's it.
You heard him say it.
I think that's a good idea. That's a good
Yeah.
compromise.
Halloween,
Larry,
Saturday,
you like that,
29th?
5 to 7?
I like it.
Saturday?
Good start.
That's what we'll do. 5 to 7. Maybe the repository can help us with this, 5 to 6. We're on. Yep, let's
Hold
go.
on. Hold on. Clerk?
Okay.
Wait, hey, Dom. Dom, hold on 1 second. We got one more report.
Last Friday was the deadline for civil service patrolman signups, and I've got 14 that signed up, so that was great.
Outstanding.
That will be Thursday, September 29th at 6 p.m. at the Civic Center.
It's exciting. Good news. All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those same sign. We're adjourned.